It is time for another high-level match of StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a Protoss versus Zerg, a best-of-3 series, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on Grasvan? I think this map is called Grasvan. Spotting right here in the bottom right-hand corner, playing with the blue Protoss pieces from South Korea, we have Classic. His opponent in the opposite corner with the red Zerg drones, he goes by the name of soO. Now, was I right? I was right. There it is, Grasvan. Grasvan is actually, despite the map name, okay, I'm not a huge fan of the map name, but turns out as far as the map layout goes, which may arguably be even more important than the name, it turns out it's very popular. A lot of games have been taking place on this map at the very least so far. Obviously, it's still relatively early on in the season as far as like the new StarCraft 2 maps go. Every once in a while, a map that is initially very popular, then, you know, after time goes by, it's gonna lose a little bit of popularity, but it seems to me that Grasvan is here to stay. Nothing all too crazy. The weirdest part about this map, I suppose, is this expansion over here. This is the one that always makes me scratch my head a little bit, right? So, say for example, you want to take your third base as a Protoss here. You can go around the corner right ways, you can go around the corner left, and then I guess you can take a third and a fourth relatively easily. This fifth base, which is what it usually is, although I guess you could try and take this as your third and then maybe this as your fourth, it just feels a little bit vulnerable because your opponent can obviously attack you from the back, and it's sort of in the middle of the map, right? Like most of the time whenever we have StarCraft 2 expansions, they're on the outskirts of the map. I guess this one, you know, at least if you look at the minimap, it looks pretty far forward as well, but it certainly is right next to a bunch of dead space. Whereas this one, I don't know, at least in my own games, haven't had a lot of success with this particular expansion. Obviously, we've seen a lot of siege tanks on the low ground over here. I guess you could do the same thing with, well, units like, for example, lurkers, flying units as well. It's an interesting one. I wouldn't be surprised if the expansion patterns that players will tend to lean to are going to change on this map as well, because yeah, initially it's very obvious that you should be taking your third and your fourth in the locations that I just mentioned, but wouldn't be surprised if at some point someone's gonna take this as their third. It would be dumb. At least right now, it would seem really dumb, but I've got a feeling that at some point that is something we can likely expect. Anyways, only time will tell. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you get notified as soon as future videos go live, so you'll be able to see if my, well, theory is true. Free drone over here. Oh, no, not a free drone. I thought soO was being nice here to his opponent for just a moment. Anyways, Oracle flying across the map. At this point, oh, he does get, 3 drones right now in the main base. Not bad at all. At this point, we do have a very standard opener here from both players. Curious to see. Ooh, this is not good at all for soO. Ooh, nice micro right here from Classic. At this point, I'm very curious to see what soO has been up to with the new multiplayer balance patch. So I believe I've brought this up in the past as well in a previous commentary. I haven't seen a whole lot of soO's games. soO, by the way, likewise, as well as the Classic, he's qualified for the round of 36 of IEM Katowice. And because of that, there's not a whole lot of soO replays floating around the internet right now. So it's been a little bit since I've seen one of his games. He's preparing for the World Championships. I do feel that the new patch will probably favor someone like soO quite a bit, because soO has never really been a spellcaster user, okay? soO, he's made a lot of money playing StarCraft 2. He got a ton of second places, and I know that that is a bit of a running joke, but of course he's done very well at Katowice in the past. And, yeah, in general, ooh, nice, he gets one of the units sniped right there. In general, I've got a feeling that this new patch does favor his playstyle quite a bit. Still no Spore, by the way, at the third, which is a little surprising. Classic is going to do the same build that we saw him do against Dark, where he opens up with a couple of those units, but then he transitions towards Adepts instead, which in a way feels like a step down, but it certainly is very good against those aggressive... Oh my god, loses another Oracle. If this was Dark playing right now, he would be packing up his bags with the Queens for sure, and he'd be going across the map. 100%. I've casted a lot of Dark games. Yeah, so he decides to go for the Lair and then the Roach Warren here, but I feel like Dark would be marching, man. Bailing Nest down, couple extra Queens, we're going on a little field trip. But no, not in this particular match. Anyways, what I was trying to say, I never finished my thought. soO is the kind of player who does not really use the Zerg spellcasters all too often, right? So he'll mix in Infestors and Vipers whenever he needs to. I guess technically Queens could be considered spellcasters, but... I mean, I don't want to, you know, you guys are like the most overpowered Zerg unit by a significant margin, okay? But don't really consider you magicians. I'm sorry. I think the changes to the Brute Lord as well as the Ultralisk, I think it's really going to be nice for someone like soO, but I mean, he needs to survive until that point. This shade over here is not bad whatsoever. 9 drones have already gone down. Adepts are now going to be heading on over towards the natural expansion. Keep in mind, there's also a lot of lost mining time. Reinforcing Adepts also show up. Maybe not the best shade over here. I guess he's stuck between a couple of structures here from the Zerg. Still killing a lot of links. Adepts over here, not controlled very much at all, but I mean... this is horrible, man. Whenever you're a Zerg player and you have to move your drones multiple times, you know you're in a really rough situation. Okay. So in a game like this, what do you do, soO? In my mind, there are 2 options right now for the Zerg. Option 1, make non-stop units, go for a counterattack, cross your fingers, hope you can win. Option 2, drone incredibly greedily, and hope your opponent doesn't attack. You have to cut a corner somewhere. If you play straight up from here on out, Classic is going to be at an overwhelming advantage. And I mean, he's still not done dealing with the Adepts. Adepts in the main base have finally been cleaned up. At this point, only one of them still remains. And, well, she's on the other side of the map. 24 drones, though, in total. 40, oh my god. 41 worker kills at the 7-minute mark. This is the Protoss dream right here in the early game. Other than losing those 2 Oracles, man. Losing those 2 Oracles kind of sucks. Honestly, it would be kind of scary if soO does decide to go for an all-in from here on out. Okay, he decides to go for drones instead. That is wild. 41 drones at this level of play is not something I've seen in a long time. But the game doesn't even really seem over. Nah. So, okay. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Look at this. So, Classic decides to go for the forward 4th base. I mean, maybe it's better. There's a very good chance this is actually better than the one over here. The problem with the one over here is, say, like there's bailing roll-bys, I guess you can very easily get in there. It's the same for the location in this spot over here, but you'll be more likely to position your army forward rather than, like, you know, over here to the side of the map. It's interesting. I've got a feeling that the expansion patterns on this map are going to be something that we'll have to note. Anyhow, the follow-up right now from soO is one of the very few comeback mechanics that Zerg has. It's gonna be a bunch of swarm hosts. Swarm hosts, very supply heavy. So supply-wise, you can immediately see soO skyrocketing ahead, but I don't think that's entirely fair. The problem with swarm hosts is that they are amazing as long as the Protoss army is relatively small. I used to play a lot of swarm hosts myself against Protoss, and I remember thinking, okay, as soon as Protoss goes over like 110, 120 supply, the swarm host is useless. Now, I don't know if that's true, but at least that's sort of like the thing I had in the back of my mind. Classic is already at 140 supply. So, good luck. Good luck here, soO. I'm curious to see how this is gonna go. I'm ready to be proven wrong. The thing is, you have to cut a corner, right? You have to do something here to get back into the game. And swarm hosts have the potential to trade incredibly cost efficiency. Or cost efficiency? Sure. Almost good English. Anyways, well, this is not a terrible engagement right here for Zerg, other than those storms. Couple of corrosive biles, though. Man, Classic really likes eating corrosive biles. And that fight, this is what I'm talking about, man. Swarm host DPS is severely underestimated. Look at this. Ay, 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 ay. Okay. 80 workers, though, for Classic. Terrible fight right here for the Protoss player overall. He's now going to be able to push this back. Overextension from soO. You can see that as soon as those locusts died, his army is kind of pathetic. If he could get the 2 immortals, that would really justify a lot of these losses, but don't think that's going to happen. Stalkers, yeah, keep going, man. Okay, now we have to back off, I think. There we go. You guys should have blink available, too. You're too cool for blinking? Fair enough. Okay. Yeah, so getting the High Templar, getting some of those expensive units here from Protoss in general is really good for the Zerg. Despite the fact that he lost a lot of roaches, roaches are pretty cheap. So there's 75 minerals, 25 gas each. In order to morph it into a Ravager, you need an additional 25 minerals and 75 gas. But long story short, all of these units from the Zerg right here are, yeah, relatively cheap. And because of that, as long as he can keep trading them, it's really not that bad for Zerg at all. I actually wouldn't mind it if he decides to double down on the Swarm Host. I think 10 Swarm Host is kind of, eh. Okay, good control right here from Classic, though. Picking up the weakened units this time around with the Prism, walking out of those corrosive biles. Conservative storms, but good enough to push back that Zerg army. I think soO's strategy is to try and rinse and repeat. So he's got 67 workers of his own. Well, once again, overextension here from Protoss now. Don't lose the Immortal. Please pick up the... Oh, he does pick it up. That was very close. Almost ends up getting everything biled, however. And now suddenly, those corrosive biles. Well, maybe he was focused on the prism there and he didn't lose that, but he lost everything else in the process. I think you want to go like 12 to maybe even 20 Swarm Host here. Yeah, I think going only 10 is a... Nah. No. Okay, we either go full throttle or we don't at all. Okay, there's no in between here. Although to be fair, it's been working out quite nicely. The problem here is this right here, right? For Zerg, this is the issue. Classic has had the economical advantage for a very long time. Despite the fact that he's not trading very efficiently at all, he is slowly growing in the supply count. And that's the most important part. You could even mix in a couple Colossus as well if you really want to. I don't think Disruptors would be a bad choice either. Right now, though, he is forced to split up some of his units, and Zerg is, well, basically putting all of their army in one location, other than a couple of those roaches that were used for the run-by. Nice movement here from Classic, though. Trying his best. Very nice movement as well from soO, for what it's worth. Man, Classic really has something with corrosive biles. I noticed this in the series that are casted between him and Dark as well. He takes a ton of corrosive biles to the face. I mean, I understand it's easier said than done to dodge those, but... I mean, he's like, you know, a top 5 Protoss player, so... I think I'm allowed to be critical, right? I know there's always someone in the comment section like, well, Lowko, if you know it so well, why don't you give it a try? Those are some of my favorite comments. Whenever I'm criticizing somebody's favorite player and they get very defensive about it. Anyways, here we go. Push again. Forward. Corrosive biles. Connecting everywhere. Oh, you know what? The Locust here on the left dealing a ton of damage. soO is feeling confident enough right now to make a bit of a transition, okay? I saw a Hydra then. I see a Spire. Or, no, not a Spire. That's called a Hive. I guess the plan is to go into Lurker here. Although he does have to put down a Lurker den. I actually would have really liked to see Brute Lords here. I think Brute Lords are a better choice overall here, but maybe a little bit more difficult to transition into as well. Classic, 160 supply, slowly growing. It's taken about 5 minutes, but he has gone up like, you know, 20, 30-ish supply in total. I mean, he lost about that much in expensive units as well, though. Yeah, 6 Immortals, 1 Archon, 6 Templar. Not ideal. Locust Wave over here. It's trying to target fire the Nexus, but that's not going to happen. Battery Overcharge here is certainly going to keep that alive. Although, yeah, Battery Overcharge was nerfed. Yeah, still plenty of HP remaining right there on that Nexus. It is indeed going to be a Lurker transition. So, if soO can suddenly whip out a dozen Lurkers, he can certainly shut down an army like this. It's just that it's difficult to pull that off. He needs to be careful as well that he doesn't get sandwiched. At the very least, he's going to finish the job that those Locusts started. Speaking of Locusts, they should soon be available once again here at the bottom. 2 Immortals caught with their pants down. Embarrassing. Okay, well, good couple storms here though. Here's the Locust Wave moving forward. Interestingly enough, very aggressive positioning on those Swarm Hosts. I don't think this was the move, soO. I thought he was gonna get sandwiched over there, but instead he got sandwiched even further forward. So this is soO wanting to transition away from the army that he's currently got. Now he realizes, wait a second, I am in a little bit of trouble if I just go straight into Lurkers right now. So I have to add on some Roaches again too. I don't think soO was meaning to lose that much. Especially those Swarm Hosts. Those Swarm Hosts were not meant to go down just yet. And that is the opportunity, though, that Classic was waiting for right now. He's bringing everything he's got towards the other side of the map. The Immortals are a little bit slower than the Stalkers, but apparently he's feeling confident enough right now with the Stalkers alone to blink aggressively forward. He does need a little bit of detection here because that, well, Lurker is murdering everything. Hello. Where's the Observer? Do we have an Observer? We do not have any detection. 2 Observers are coming up right now out of his robo facilities, but that is severely going to slow all of this down. Classic thinks, no worries, I'll just kill the hatchery that doesn't exist. Pushing without an Observer, man. Look at the creep spread. It's all the way at the 3rd base of Protoss. Yeah, the golden rule of Protoss pushes is to always attack with observers and, of course, with prisms. Or at least one of each. Prism gonna go into the main base. I think we're gonna go for a cheeky little Zealot warp in. Don't mind that idea at all. Only 4 of them. We have 8 gateways, but apparently only 4. Now we're finally starting to do a little bit of that spring cleaning. Spawning pool in trouble. Don't think that really matters all too much, but this is mostly just Classic trying to pull his opponent's attention in multiple areas. High Templar busy throwing water balloons here as well at the creep tumors. They're putting in their work. You love to see it. Doesn't really do any damage, but you know what? They're trying their best, and my mom always told me that participating is more important than winning. So, you know, I think we should all give a round of applause for the High Templar. There is a Zealot warp in the main base. I need to put my hand back on the mouse, but I'm assuming you're standing up right now and you're clapping. Anyways, Zealots will, at least some of them will be able to escape. I think our eyes should be on this main army, though, because that really is just a distraction. soO is very strapped here for cash, but he does have a pretty formidable army, all things considered. Templar here in the back trying their best to get some work done, but I think this is it. Well, I mean, those corrosive balls, man. Those corrosive balls are so lethal. Why is Classic taking so much damage from those? What? I thought this would be the killing blow, but suddenly Classic gets pushed back. It's those lurkers that are still putting in so much work. 10 kills on that one. Despite the fact the detection was here. The connection right there. Ooh, loses almost 2 more immortals. That would have been rough. You know what? Take a step back here for a second. Classic is still in a winning position, that's for sure, but not in a as winning and winningest. His position is not as winningest as the previous one that he was in. What I'm saying is that it's slightly worse. How many immortals have gone down this game? 14 immortals. Immortal, more like mortal. Yeah, thank you for smashing that like button. I understand that that joke was hilarious. No, but seriously, the immortals here have, I think half of them have died to corrosive piles. If I were to make a guess, someone could go back to this video and just start counting the immortal losses. I feel like half of them have taken at least 80% of their damage from corrosive piles. It would be kind of interesting if that is what is, like, kind of holding back Classic. I mean, obviously, the sample size of games I've seen of him recently, well, you know, I've seen these, or I'm seeing this one right now, and this entire best of 3. But, yeah, other than that, just the series he played against Dark. It's just the theme, I guess. He certainly seems to be eating corrosive balls for breakfast. Not quite ideal. Oh my god, imagine a bunch of Brute Lords, alright? Imagine that. In this case, though, soO has already transitioned towards Lurkers, and he doesn't really have the money to make a Greater Spire and then a bunch of Brutes as well. But I've got a feeling, man, when you're going up against an all-ground Protoss army, even when it's a one with, or it's one with a bunch of Blink Stalker, the speed improvement on the Brute Lords really is quite nice. I wouldn't even mind seeing soO go back to Swarm House right now. This is a relatively low eco game. Now suddenly that supply count here from Classic is maybe a little bit more suitable for that style too. Anyways. Classic realizes it, and it's time for him to make a change. Fleet Beacon, second Stargate is coming up. Carriers, of course, are a fantastic unit. Could even go into Tempest if he wants to as well. Does he still have those Oracles? No, of course not. They probably got biled. Let's be real. They probably got biled as well, man. Okay, a couple roaches here getting sacrificed, but now the lurker count has grown quite significantly. soO taking the base here at the bottom. Okay, it is going to be Tempest. Yeah. So I think with Tempest, though, you do have to accompany it with some sort of detection. I think Oracles are really nice, since you can use Revelation on the lurkers and then shoot them with the Tempest at their maximum range. Observers can do the same thing. Well, they can't. Oh. That's what I was talking about the vulnerabilities with that base. I was trying to come up at the time with a Protoss equivalent, but I guess Storm is a pretty good one. I think I brought up siege tanks and lurkers and, you know, flying units, but High Templar not messing around. Huge recall right now to catch like 6 roaches. Well, they're dead. They're pretty dead, man. I think recalling half the army and actually killing them all would have been really sweet. Anyhow. I am a little bit concerned for soO at this point in the game because he does not have anything that goes well against Tempest. He hasn't seen them yet. He's going to spot them for the first time right now. Balls of energy suddenly flying across the screen. Don't think you want to fire them at a bunch of Zerglings. No, don't lose your Tempest. Oh no, if you lose your Tempest with corrosive balls, I'm going to be sad. Okay, here we go. Observers finally get into the right place. Roach is here on the right side. Trying to get their best damage in. Killing quite a few probes. Ay, man. Classic trying his best, but honestly, if you compare the games that Classic has shared with us so far to, like, for example, Heroes games, he just misses a little bit of that crispness, right? Like, some of his gameplay is obviously phenomenal, but the Observer's lacking behind. I mean, I'm not gonna keep repeating myself about the corrosive vials, but maybe I will. I think Hero would have won this game 10 minutes ago. Anyway, slowly moving forward. There's an Oracle in the mix. And there's nothing for the Zerg available to deal with those Tempests. Like, he can try, I guess, and get the Hydras underneath. But what you really need here is a bunch of Vipers, I guess. But the abductions make that much harder. There's already High Templar out as well, and with feedback, they can shut it down really nicely. Oh wow, we're only just now going for the muscular augments research as well for those Hydras. So the plan is to try and get Hydras underneath the Tempest. In the meantime, Zealot run by over here. One Lurker being as obnoxious as it possibly can be. This is nice and all. But the Tempest count is growing and the Hydra count is dwindling. Lurker here on the right side. Taking, well, a long time to be cleaned up. Now finally an Observer shows, and Zealots will help out in that department, but yeah. It's Classic who wins game number 1. Game number 2. We find ourselves on Babylon. A good game right there from Classic, but I'm honestly maybe even more impressed by soO. Keep in mind that soO was basically dead in the water after that early game, right? I mean, he lost like, what, 41 probes, if I recall correctly? He lost a stupid amount of workers in the first couple minutes of the game, and generally speaking, that is the end. Generally speaking, coming back from that spot is impossible at this level of play, but he got very close. Curious to see what soO can do when he doesn't lose a whole bunch of stuff for free. He was seemingly not prepared really for the Oracles, but he also did not really seem to expect any Adepts. And I don't think we can really say that both of those things are uncommon. Yeah, I guess maybe the Adept follow-up after Oracles is, you know, not super common these days, but... Okay. Well, here goes the first Adept once again to town. Oh, he gets it. This is much better right here for soO. Yeah, he ended up losing like I think 3 drones as well to the first Adept, right? Not a Void Ray. I don't like it. I recommend avoiding Void Rays. Don't do it. It's a trap. Okay, if you're anywhere above Gold League, don't do it. Classic, though, quite a bit above Gold League. Although, you know, when you look at his border, if you look at his StarCraft 2 profile, his border will look very gold as well. Just a shinier, polished version, I guess, of gold. Anyhow, okay, I was gonna say, that would have been embarrassing. This is basically the Protoss equivalent of making a Viking. A Viking that happens to be decent against roaches as well. Killing one Overlord, I don't like it. I don't like it. Especially after the Oracles were so successful in the previous game. Anyhow, Oracle on the back of this, so maybe it can get a little bit of work done. This is something that Zaun likes to do. Zaun seems to be a big Void Ray enjoyer. I personally am not. I'm not in the camp of Void Ray enjoyers, okay? Hey, look, Oracles. So we make Spore Crawlers. No, not at the third base, though. 3 queens at the third base instead. Oracle trying to slide around the site. Okay, you know what? Void Ray getting quite a bit of work done. It's gonna die for sure. Yeah, nice kill right there on that Overlord. This time around, it's a single Overlord scout from soO. So Classic at the very least is not gonna be able to get a third Overlord here. But you know what? The Void Ray, yeah, putting in a little bit of work. I don't hate it. It just seems inferior, and it makes me scared for any queen-based pushes, I guess. Ah. Okay, is that the idea? You know what? Never mind. Scratch it. I like this. Look at this dream team, man. Oracle can throw Revelations out, and then the Void Ray can deal a bunch of damage. The only problem is that I guess if they're both on the other side of the map, a Zergling push here could be annoying. Luckily, the Void Ray has already come back home. There's a couple of Adepts in the mineral line too. So these links, they're not going to be able to get a whole lot of work done. Okay. Yeah, after casting a lot of Darks, Zerg versus Protoss, these Zerg decisions seem rather passive, right? Like, it's the second game in a best of 3, and we haven't seen a single proxy hatchery yet. What's going on there? Why are there no spine crawlers building in the natural of the Protoss? Why did that Oracle just go down? Classic does not seem to care so much for some of the units in his army, man. It almost looks to me like an APM issue, but he should be plenty fast at this point in the game. Yeah. I've looked at a lot of Classic games over the years. I don't remember him just losing units willy-nilly like that. It just seems silly. Obviously, maybe, you know, he's got a bit of an off day here. But, I mean, he still ended up winning game 1, but still. It just, Protoss in the early game has like 6 units, right? Like, you literally have like a grand total of like 3 units when you take your 3rd Nexus. And losing one of them is really expensive for no apparent reason at all. The only reason to lose it, no cancel. You see that Christmas? The only reason why you lose it is because you weren't paying attention. That's the only reason. It's just an attention thing. Okay, this time around it gets canceled. Who says don't mind if I do? If I do it again. If I do it again. If I do it again. 4th Nexus coming up though. Su no longer has time to snipe that gateway because he now has bigger buildings to try and snipe. Okay. So, Storm once again done. Of course, what Classic likes to do is sit back, right? The reason, though, why that previous game still looked good for him is because maybe I'm pointing out some of the small pencil strokes, right? The broad strokes in this in these games are very solid. He doesn't have any Zerglings running into his natural expansion. He doesn't have any Banelings rolling by in his mineral line. He didn't lose his group of High Templar for free. Maybe I'm nitpicking a little too much, but, well, no. Hey, Archon. Okay, nice. Perfect. See, that's what I mean. Like, that was flawless. Let's see how good his Mutalistic defense is. I know this is the Protoss ladder hero's least favorite unit, right? Playing against Mutalisks is the absolute worst. When you don't see it coming, they can deal so much damage. And, well, since he lost the Oracle, he certainly did not see that Spire coming up. So, these Mutas are gonna show up unscouted. We do have Blink done. +1 ground weapons is finished as well here for the Protoss player. Classic is really good with that crisis management, though. So let's see. There go the little flippy flappies with their tiny little wings that are way too small to, well, unless gravity is different on this planet to, you know, hold up their body like that. Maybe if they were to flap their wings much quicker, I don't know. Anyways, let's look at the crisis management here. So, Stalkers in the main base. Stalkers here at the 3rd base as well. Roach Army or Zergling Army attempted a, well, push over there on the left side of the map. So far, I am not feeling all too inspired here by this push here from Su. That was it? We're going back home? So, photon cannons were already set up preemptively. I like that a lot here from Classic. I didn't pay attention to exactly when he made that, but I wouldn't be surprised if he queued them up shortly after losing that Oracle. Or at the very least when he assumed those Mutas could be out. A lot of Protoss players will be caught without any of those, those photon cannons down, but not Classic. Dotting his T's, crossing his I's. Close enough. Hero Adept over here. She's ready to sacrifice herself. No recall, man. She was promised a recall. Didn't happen. Okay. The Protoss army is growing. It's a very Classic-esque game. Not really pushing across the map with any of his bigger army units. Instead, just sort of accepting his fate as being a punching bag. He's like a sponge right now, you know? He's just absorbing everything, and at some point, when he's fully saturated, That's where my analogy falls apart. He's gonna, he's gonna come swinging, okay, is what I'm saying. Hive is done. Great Aspire, I'm assuming. Think it's an excellent option here. The only problem is that we don't really know exactly when this is gonna be moving out. Okay, Bingling roll by, moving in. Okay, good storm over there. Good follow-up storm as well. That wall up north, man, even though that gateway had to be rebuilt 17 times, it still ended up soaking up a lot of damage. Now the Mutar count, though, is quite scary. Great Aspire, indeed, on the back of this. Adrenal Glands also coming up. This is the soO that we all know and love. 21 workers have gone down. Now he comes back in with the Zergling. Well, don't lose the Banelings. Okay, thank you. Now he comes back in with the Zerglings and a couple... No, okay, fine. A couple of Roaches here, too. Nexus eventually falls. +3 is finishing up here in about 20 seconds for the Classic player. The Classic Protoss player, that is. That is a scary upgrade. Storm? Oh, big storms. Big storms. Okay. Don't mind seeing that at all. No corrosive biles in this game either, right? So that makes things a little bit easier. Brute Lords are coming up, but they're not out just yet. Nexus building here are already finished even in the bottom left-hand corner. So a new expansion, a new set of minerals here to mine. A lot of spine crawlers were produced and now Zerglings are morphing themselves into Banelings too. Is there enough for the Zerg player to clean all of this up? He wants to go Brute Lords, man. As soon as those Brute Lords are finished, this Protoss army is going to be relatively easy to stop. Good moves right there as well, though, with the Blink. Yeah, trying to soak up as much damage here with those Stalkers before ultimately allowing it to crash into those Archons and Immortals. Roach Warren right now is gone. Spine Crawlers awkwardly morphing in the back. I guess they're creating a little bit of space right here for those Brute Lords to come in. Stalker count, though, is still quite big. I was thinking maybe like 12 Brute Lords would be difficult to spot. I think 6 Brute Lords. Those Stalkers can manage. Yeah, they see them right now as well. Okay, they do decide to aggressively blink forward too. They manage to get underneath the Brutes right now, sniping them one at a time. And I think Mr. Classic may have just done it. Passive for the majority of the game until he sees an opportunity, and that's immediately when he strikes. Sure, he may have lost a lot of workers, but he has not lost his army, and with that, he can win the game.